Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, everyone. I'm Marc. I'm an Azure App Consult engineer, and I'm here at the Mixed Reality DevDays with Nick. Nick, tell me about yourself.
All right, so hi, I'm Nick Klingensmith. I'm an engineer here on the Mixed Reality Middleware and MRTK team, and I am the author and primary maintainer of Stereokit.
So tell me, how did you get into MR?
Okay, so I've been interested in MR pretty much since the Oculus DK1 came out, but the way that I kind of got here is through storytelling. So when I was really young, a wee little lad, I was very interested in telling stories. I really wanted to be a writer and tug on people's heartstrings. And so I gave writing a try. I wrote lots of poems. I wrote short stories. I did National Novel Writing Month. And I was an okay writer, but I was a very slow writer. And so I ultimately decided that was not the route that I wanted to take. I was also at that time kind of an avid gamer. Like, I loved to play games. And at some point I decided games were a better tool for telling stories because they had more of an opportunity to immerse the user. And so I thought that was neat. And I went and pursued a career in game development. And so I've actually spent a lot of time professionally building games. But when VR headsets came around, I tried those things on, and wow, if you've tried it, and this was just, to me, it was the most immersive place where you could tell a story. And so I was really interested in the ability of mixed reality to immerse the user, to tell a story, and to really make them feel something. So that's kind of what got me into mixed reality to begin with.
Let's talk about your latest project, Stereokit. What has been your motivation in creating it?
Yeah, so I come from a long background of working with game engines. I used to build a couple of my own game engines back when I was really young, and there were no other options out there. I became a Unity expert for a while. I spent about 10 years doing Unity development. And so when I joined Microsoft and I was working with other developers, just kind of helping them build their projects, I had this ability to, I had the opportunity to see all the problems that they were experiencing. Through my own work on my own projects while at Microsoft, I had the opportunity to see what my own problems were. And so it was just kind of a lot of this experience, and I really wanted to build something that would take all these problems and just solve them from the ground up, because it's, mixed reality is really new, and a lot of the tools that we have are not necessarily that new, so they don't account for mixed reality as well as they could. And so if you build something from the ground up specifically for mixed reality, then you have the opportunity to reimagine what does an engine look like, how do you develop for a mixed reality context. So this was kind of how Stereokit came to be. I was solving problems, and I built something that would solve those problems.
What would be what we call value proposition of your tool or engine? Where does it sit? What makes it better than other tools? Where are its current limitations?
Yeah, so Stereokit is, because it's very specifically purpose-built for mixed reality, it is very good for mixed reality. This is a whole collection of different things, are the defaults set to work well with mixed reality? Stereokit just works with mixed reality out of the box. You don't have to configure anything. You don't have to go and install some weird stuff or packages. The other thing is that it's very application focused rather than games focused.
Okay.
There's already plenty of great tools out there for making games, and I really wanted something that would serve a tool builder, an application builder, somebody who's making productivity things. That's kind of an underserved area of development within mixed reality. And so it does things that are a little more focused towards this direction. And if you think about this, you design the architecture of the engine differently. The big thing in particular that I like to point to is the asset system. So for a game engine, typically when you load an asset, it will take this asset, rip out all the pieces, compress these pieces, optimize these pieces, and store them in this really fast format. And this is really great for a game because you can load it right away. But the caveat is that you can't do this at runtime. It's compiled. Yeah. It's part of the compile step. And so if you want to do something like take a file picker and load this asset, you got to write your own file loading code because it's, the asset pipeline is offline, not during runtime. So Stereokit is very much focused around loading an asset at runtime. It has a built-in file picker that works cross-platform, in mixed reality, outside of mixed reality. Like you grab the file, you load it up, and because it's like a userland format, like a GLTF, like a GLTF often contains like PNGs or JPEGs, which are not optimized for decoding. They're optimized for size. And so Stereokit has to decode these for you in the background. And so there's this progressive loading system where like it loads it up, it gives you the mesh right away. That's usually very, very fast. And then the images will come in as they load, but it doesn't block your application. You don't have to worry about this.
Okay.
Like you can listen for events if you want to, but more or less it's just fire and forget. Just give me the asset.
So the performance impact isn't that high, although you're doing dynamic loading.
Yeah. So like one of the interesting things, like if you are in a game engine and you do have to write your model loading stuff from scratch, it's very difficult to build in this optimization yourself. Like this is typically like high skill sort of task stuff. And like that's much better to leave to a graphics programmer or somebody low level. And so Stereokit can do some of that in the runtime asset pipeline in the background as part of like this asynchronous asset loading system.
Okay. Oh, talking about async, because this is a feature that you have recently introduced. Maybe we can talk about, maybe you want to talk about this a little bit?
So just a couple of days ago, as of when we filmed this, I released Stereokit version 0.3.6. And so this release focused primarily around asynchronous asset loading. This is something that's super valuable. Like I very frequently end up working with large photogrammetry objects, and so it's really nice to be able to just like load the photogrammetry and start interacting with it before it's completely loaded. A lot of other things in that update, but that was kind of the headliner.
Okay. What are your like next big things that you would like to introduce into Stereokit?
Yeah. So the next really big item on the list for Stereokit is openXR and WebAssembly. So Stereokit currently is openXR based, and I've done a lot of work to make sure that it's cross-platform. Like it runs on Quest, it runs on HoloLens, it runs on Linux, it runs on Windows. Basically anywhere that openXR is, Stereokit runs. And so WebXR seemed just like the next frontier for this. Like I've come from the game development world, and it's really, really powerful for you to be able to just send a link to somebody and have them just click on it, go in, experience it. Like no friction, no commitment. Like having a web application is really, really powerful. And so I really wanted Stereokit to be able to do that. And so like some of the recent things like .NET Blazor and stuff like that, like very exciting stuff. I saw that like now's the time, I got to do it. So Stereokit's native side, so Stereokit is a C# library, first and foremost, but it does have a native C++ layer. And so the C++ layer can actually compile the simulator to web already. So I'm halfway there right now, and I'm hoping to fit this into the next update.
Cool. And where do you see a Stereokit in a year or so?
So a year is a really long time out. I usually try to think in 2-month chunks. This is usually how long I take for each update. And a lot of what I develop tends to be based off what the community is telling me. So like, I have a nice Discord channel. I have an active GitHub issues page. And like anytime somebody posts something there, like if it's easy, I just go do it. If it's a little more involved, like I'll still try and go do it. And so a lot of my development right now is very community driven to make sure that people have what they need to build what they're building. But I do have a couple of things that I have in my mind. Like a year is a long time, and I am hoping before a year comes out, I will have Stereokit 1.0. So it's still a 0.3.6. It's I feel like there are still a few things left before I can consider it a complete product. But I'm very close at this point. So like one of the big items, WebXR is really important. I think that's critical. There's anchors. So like Stereokit does support anchors right now, but a lot of the openXR spec around around anchors has just kind of started to land. And so this is part of the story that I really wanted to have for the API, and I think it's the time to add that.
Yep.
Yeah, same thing with scene understanding and like understanding the world around you and what's in it. Like that's really important for mixed reality, and some of the spec also has started to land around that. So that's another thing that's really big. There's .NET MAUI, some really interesting tools related to that I think are also really good for smoothing over like which template do you use? Well, just this one, and then there's a couple of things related to graphics. So right now, Stereokit's graphics are focused around being really performant and looking really nice just with this really performant stuff. But it does kind of limit the potential range. Like it's not a game engine. It's not meant to look stunning. It's meant to look good enough for your applications. And so I do have the opportunity to add in a few more tools, like a render graph, maybe some render lists, compute shaders, stuff like this. I have some of these partially implemented, but that would kind of open Stereokit up to be like the perfect middleware. Like, for those C++ programmers that really want to pull some interesting graphics into it and use Stereokit for building their platforms or tools.
Okay. So let's get back to, because you talked about your GitHub page and about your project. So you're the main maintainer, or the main maintainer. So how does your like development day or development cycle looks like?
Yeah, so it's changed a lot over the years. I've actually been working on Stereokit for almost 3 years now.
Okay.
So like these days, what I usually do, like I'll start the day, I'll pop open GitHub issues, like go through and like read everything, reply to everything. I really like working on Stereokit. So like part of it I'll do at work, and I'll go home, I'll do a little bit more. Like I'm not exactly a role model for work-life balance, but I'm having fun when I do it. So like for me, coding is just really comfortable. I've been doing it since I was 12, and it's like I'm wired for it at this point. Like it's easier for me to code than for me to not code. So like a nice weekend for me is just a little bit of rain outside, some nice and quiet session coding.
I can relate to that. Yeah. Definitely.
So.
Okay. So for the people out there, how could they help you? Are there like topics where you need help? Because you just said you're focused on coding, and there are other topics. Obviously, if you need to manage such type of project like project management, build, CI/CD, documentation, and so on and so forth. How can people contribute?
Yeah, so first of all, Stereokit is completely open source. It's MIT licensed. Everything is up on GitHub, so you can dig in as much as you like. I'm always happy to have contributions. Like the easiest way to do it is to like take a peek at what's on the GitHub issues list there and see if something there interests you. But also if there's just like a feature that you really want to work on. Like I love people who do like these passion projects. Like that's fantastic. I would love to have it in Stereokit. As long as it meets our criteria, then it's great. There's a contributing guide and there's a build guide on the GitHub repository, so you can check with those. We also do have a Discord community. A lot of nice people in there, but you can pop on there anytime, ask questions, see what's interesting at the moment, something fun to work on. We can point you in the right direction there too. So.
All the links are on stereokit.net?
Yeah, so stereokit.net is the website, and this basically has links to everything. Like there's learning resources there, there's a link to the GitHub, there's a link to the Discord, there's all the reference documentation, stuff like that. Yeah.
Talking about documentation. So that is one of the really amazing things I've learned when you gave your talk. So you have built your own documentation generator. Want to talk about this a bit?
Yeah. So this actually comes back to the fact that I'm not a writer and I don't like writing, and it takes me way too long. Basically, I spent my time writing a tool for documentation instead of writing documentation. So the tool basically, it scrapes through all of my test code, and there's like little comments in it, and so it'll take the comments, take the code in between those comments, and assemble a sample from it. Alongside of that, when it runs the tests, it also generates screenshots at the same time. So all of that information gets put together with the comment doc XML and like a bunch of reflection, and it puts together markdown files and assembles a GitHub Pages website, and that's the documentation. So all of the code there has been run. The screenshot that's associated with it is exactly of that code. So like when I refactor my code, it refactors the documentation.
Perfect, yeah.
And everything is up to date and live and reliable, which is really, really nice.
As for every software, the documentation should be like live, the latest version, and so on and so forth. Yeah, that's great. Thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, and thanks for watching this.
And Stereokit.net is the website. You can go there to the GitHub, Discord. Did I miss anything?
No, that's good.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
hopefully I'll see you around.
Yeah, thank you.